I'm laughing. Jim Trotter. Good to see you, brother. I'm laughing because this is the first time I've seen your entire feed.
Oh.
And listen, I know you appreciate good comedy. I know you have a classic Richard Pryor shirt that you keep promising to wear on the program. But I didn't know you were this funny. I didn't know you were this funny, though. I didn't know you were this funny. I did not plan to start with this, but I just happened to see. Jim McCollum has put his feet. Buckeyes versus Wolverines. Who you got? Like what? What? For real? Are you? Come on.
For real.
Come on. Did Gary Carter make you do that? Did he make you do that? I mean, who you got? Who's everybody have? There's a wrong answer and a right answer. What? Do you have the right answer? I hope so. What's the right answer?
Bro, let me say this to you. I have been looking forward to this game since last year's game ended, because nobody does petty better than Jim Harbaugh. Nobody. Yeah. And when Jim Harbaugh does petty, all it does is make you want to see him feel the other side of that. And so who am I rooting for in this game? The Buckeyes. So I know you're not going to kick me off the show now. I'm rooting for the Buckeyes, but I think it's going to be a fantastic game. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. And I love when it's like there's a personal element to it. And again, because Jim does petty so well, it always feels like with his opponents, there's a little bit of personal something involved mixed in the recipe. So I'm looking for a great game and a lot of fun. I'm not going to watch a 3-hour pregame show, but when kickoff rolls around, I will have it on.
Yeah. Kickoff rolls around. You've had your leftovers for the second day in a row, and you watch a great game. OH in the country says IO. Thank you very much. All right, look. Hey, Jim, I was thinking about this today when I saw this news break about the NFLPA, and I used to have these thoughts about, okay, what happened? When you're a little kid, you have kind of like a skewed view of what a lot of money is. So let's say I'm 10 years old. It's like, hey, if I ever get $200, I do this, I do that, I do that. You think that's a lot of money. And then as you get a little older, you say, well, that's not really that much money. But I wonder if I'm still doing that, not at 10, but at 52. Am I doing this thing where I say to myself, am I being unrealistic when I say, if I were an NFL owner and I'm a billionaire and I've got great players, and I'd say somebody said to me, you can have a great championship team. All you've got to do is say, maybe guarantee your best players are going to ask for their contracts to be guaranteed. Would you do it? To make your players happy, to make the road to a championship a little bit smoother, less contentious? I'd say, sure, I'm a billionaire. Why wouldn't I do that? But NFL owners, no NFL owner thinks like I do. And maybe that's why they're in ownership and I'm not. I don't understand.
Well, there's one. There is one who does.
Oh, yeah, but under duress. Under duress. Jimmy Haslam, you talking about? Jimmy Haslam did it. Jimmy Haslam did it under duress, because for him to get the quarterback that he wanted, we're going to see him pretty soon, Deshaun Watson, for him to get the quarterback he wanted, he needed to guarantee the contract, or else Deshaun Watson was going to go elsewhere. But I'm talking about somebody.
There are two. There are two.
Kirk Cousins.
The other was not on the scale of Deshaun Watson's contract, but yes. So it has been done.
Why won't they do it? Why? And just for those who don't know, NFLPA says there's collusion happening. These owners are colluding to keep players from getting guaranteed contracts, because obviously they're afraid. They're afraid of what this will lead to. I'm not afraid of what it will lead to. I enjoy the NFL. I love seeing people in football and any other industry, no matter what industry you're in, listening to us, listening to Brother from Another, consuming Brother from Another. I want you to get paid too. I want you to get every single dime that you've worked hard for. And I feel the same way about NFL players, but why won't these owners ever do this, Jim?
Well, just what you said. I mean, there's a fear element here. Number one, the NFL is such an inherently violent sport that if you guarantee all that money into a player and he gets hurt, you're on the hook for it until that contract expires. And so there is some fear from that standpoint. And I would say not so much with quarterbacks, but with other positions. Here's my angle on all this talk about guaranteed contracts, Michael. At some point, it's not about what you ask for, it's about what you demand, right? And the players can demand guaranteed contracts. There is nothing in the collective bargaining agreement that says a player cannot have a fully guaranteed contract. The question is, when are you going to stand up and demand it? And I go back a few years, there was a point where a number of top quarterbacks were coming up. And I was like, it was Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson, when Russell Wilson was good, and a couple others.
Ooh.
And I said, oh, that's the truth. And I said, if each of these quarterbacks said, we are not signing contracts unless they are fully guaranteed, what do you think ownership would have done with those clubs? In all likelihood, they would have given them fully guaranteed contracts. We had the same thing some years ago with cornerbacks, where a number of the top cornerbacks were coming up, Richard Sherman, Patrick Peterson, and some others. And if they had held it together and said, in other words, if you want to use the term collusion, which they can't be from the player side, I would argue, if those players had said, we're not signing any deals unless they're fully guaranteed, I would have to believe some of those owners, if not all, would have said, okay, we're going to fully guarantee him. But where the owners get the players is, I believe, is that players know that their careers that there is a finite number of years that they can play, and that injury is always right around the corner. And the dollars are extreme. I shouldn't say extreme, but they are large, relatively speaking, in terms of what is being offered to them. And so they will take what they can get in the short term instead of focusing or fighting for those guaranteed deals. So I'm fascinated to see what evidence the Players Association has to make this claim, because as you know, and we've talked about before, that famous line from the movie Training Day, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. So I'm fascinated to see what evidence the Players Association has.
Don't they need, Jim, don't they need like a big name? They need somebody. I mean, this is like, I think this is the opposite of Major League Baseball. Like Major League Baseball is in this position today, whether players realize it or not, or acknowledge it or not. MLB is in this position where everybody has guaranteed contracts. Even the bums have guaranteed contracts because of what Curt Flood did. And I'm guessing if you ask the majority of Major League Baseball players, do you know about the reserve clause and do you know the name Curt Flood? I'd say the majority would not get it. They wouldn't understand how influential this guy was. Not a great player by any stretch, a good player, but not a great player, who kind of challenged the system. And it in Major League Baseball has not been the same since. Curt Flood essentially is the godfather of free agency in Major League Baseball.
Correct.
And so the world changed.
Tell me how it would work.
Flood.
Right. But tell me how it would work in the NFL.
All right, Lamar Jackson is our guy. Lamar Jackson is saying, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to. This is what I'm going to force you to guarantee every dollar that I play for going forward. Now, what that means for the Baltimore Ravens, if he's serious about it, the Ravens could put a couple of franchise tags on him, which is guaranteed money, over what, $40 million for a quarterback? Is it 40? Or a little bit more.
Anyway. It will likely be in that neighborhood, yes.
Yeah. So you put a couple of franchise tags on him, that's guaranteed dollars. And then at the end of the franchise tag, he says, sorry, I haven't changed my mind. And you're forced to either give him a guaranteed deal or trade him to someone who will then give him a guaranteed contract. But it will take a star player to say, I am not going to live by these conditions. Or in a case, maybe Lamar Jackson's not a good example. A better example is somebody who's under contract and demands a new one. Not in position to be tagged. Let's say they're in year 2 of a 5-year deal. I'm like, nope, I'm not coming back until you change this contract and make it fully guaranteed. And that player either gets a fully guaranteed contract, great player, with the franchise, because it has to be a great player. Otherwise, the team would be like, no, just sit out. I don't care. It had to be like somebody like a Micah Parsons. It'd have to be somebody like a Patrick Mahomes, just like a big name where a team doesn't have the luxury of just sitting there saying, I don't care what you say. We'll go on without you. No, the circus does not go on without me, baby. You got to deal with me. And they either guarantee that contract or they trade him to someone who will then guarantee the contract. And then I think the floodgates, well, maybe the floodgates won't open, but things will loosen up a little bit. We need a courageous star to say nothing less than guaranteed money.
Look, I'm on record for more than a decade of saying I would love to see that. I just haven't seen the will of the player to say that's what he will do. And particularly, as I say, as a group, so that one player is not out on an island. You're right, Lamar is holding his ground, saying, I want that fully guaranteed deal. And here's the way I look at it, too. People say, Lamar, get what you can while you can. And I'm sorry, I disagree with that. I mean, I'm sure he's got an injury protection or an insurance policy that will protect him against career-ending injury. I'm saying, let's say at the end of this year, the Ravens say, we're not going to give you a multi-year guarantee. He says, fine, I'll play for $40 million this year. Then they say the next year after that season, they're still not going to give him a multi-year guarantee. Well, under the franchise tag, it would be a 120% increase. So that would be $48 million he would play for in the second year under the franchise tag. So he's now made $88 million over 2 years. And as you guaranteed. And then at that point, the Ravens would have to decide whether or not they want to franchise him a third year, which is so prohibitive. The likelihood of that happening is nil. And therefore, as you say, he would hit the open market. I'm of the mind, I don't have a problem, particularly if I'm a quarterback, saying I'll play on your franchise tag for 1 year, for 2 years, because I know after 2 years, if I'm as good as I know I am, and as other people know I am, I'm going to make a lot of money in those 2 years fully guaranteed. And at that third year, I'm going to go out on the market and get, as you said, a large fully guaranteed deal, a multi-year deal from a team that's desperate for a quarterback. Because what do we say? The NFL is a quarterback-driven league. So from that standpoint, I'm not complaining at this point about not having a fully guaranteed deal. And again, I need to stress this, Michael. Yeah. There is nothing in the collective bargaining agreement that says a player cannot have a fully guaranteed contract. It is simply a matter of the player standing his ground and saying, if I don't get it, I'm not playing.
I just had this thought, and it's not fully developed, so I'm going to put it out there, get your response, and I'm going to move on to another topic because I want to think about this some more. But as I listen to you, Jim, it hits me that the problem is not necessarily – I mean, I do think players – should get fully guaranteed contracts. But on the way there, on the road to a fully guaranteed contract, I see a couple of problems along the way. About 20 miles on my journey, I see a problem. And one of the problems is the length of contracts initially and the language around the franchise tag. Maybe the franchise tag needs to go. And maybe we need to, out of college, it shouldn't be, maybe if you are a first-round pick, you're a top 15, top 25 pick, why are you signing a 4-year contract? Contract should be 2 or 3 years. After 2 or 3 years, you establish yourself. There's no franchise tag. If players were able to go to the market, if we just let the market determine it without this artificial, hey, I'm going to put a tag on you. I'm not going to let you go. I'm going to cap your cost. Then, the players would be closer to getting what they're looking for. Free market, let the market decide, right?
Yeah, but the problem is that there's a collective bargaining agreement that outlines the length of contracts for players coming into the league. So this would require veteran players or players currently in the league saying, you know what? Yep, saying basically, at the next labor negotiation, which is somewhere down the line, long down the line after they signed a 10-year deal, way down the line, the players at that point would have to say, you know what, we're not signing a new CBA unless these things change. And I can't see the owners changing that at all, because one thing owners like is knowing what the fixed cost is for each season so that they can plan out, in terms of from season to season or their business interest and whatnot. Here's my thing with the collective bargaining agreement when you talk about players. Where I was really put off in 2011 with that CBA when it was signed, when we had a work stoppage, was the owners were adamant that they wanted to get.
Yeah, we didn't have a work stoppage. We had a lockout.
We had a lockout. You're correct. Yeah. But the owners were adamant that they wanted to get rookie salaries under control. Because if you remember, Sam Bradford had signed that deal that was, I think he had a $50 million signing bonus or something crazy. And the owner said, we want to get rookie contracts under control. And so we want fixed costs. We want a rookie wage scale. And the union agreed to it. But my issue with that was, if as a union you were going to agree with that, then for the players' purposes, they got to be able to become free agents quickly after that initial rookie deal. And that didn't happen. The owners got protections both on the front end and the back end. They got reduced cost on the front end and a fixed cost on the front end. And on the back end, they still had the franchise tag and for first round picks, they had the 5th-year option. So for instance, if I am a running back and I am a damn good running back, it means that an organization can tie up my rights for, let's say, 7 years. That's 4 years on the contract, a 5th-year option, and then 2 years under the franchise tag. When do I get to hit the open market and try and earn my true value? Because we know that running backs, relatively speaking, are underpaid. So that was my big issue with that CBA deal back in 2011, is that I felt the players got screwed in that area and that they weren't able to hit the market more quickly, the young players after they come into the league.
Now, listen, Jim, I was telling somebody the other day, I spent so much time in church growing up. Whatever you need to know about the Bible, I got you. Okay, I spent so much time in church growing up. I went to Catholic school, K through 9. I went to Catholic school, and in Catholic school, the Catholic school I went to, before school, every day before school, I had to go to mass. Every day.
I'm afraid of where this is going.
Hey,
I'm afraid of where this is going.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. No. I'm just telling you. I'm just giving you a little background. Every day I had to go to mass before school. And if you were late to mass, you couldn't go outside for recess. So I was on time for mass every day, K through 9 to Catholic school. But then we weren't Catholic, but went to Catholic school. And my mom's church, we in church all day long. It was like 9 to 5, pretty much on Sunday. Anyway, so I heard a lot of sermons. I've heard a lot of sermons over the years, and lots of preachers who have said something to the effect of, don't compare yourself to anyone else. The key to a joyful life is to keep your eyes on the prize and don't think about what your neighbor has and what this person has. Just work. It's hard, man. I mean, if I'm an NFL player, and we'll take a break after this and talk to Mark Spears of Anscape. If I'm an NFL player, I'm the #1 sport in North America, #1. And I look at Major League Baseball and its quiet hot stove season, and all of those guys are getting guaranteed contracts. NHL right now, all those guys are getting guaranteed contracts. Their numbers don't match ours. They don't have the eyeballs that we do. They don't have the ratings that we do. They get guaranteed contracts. Mark Spears covers the NBA. Great. It's fun. Some iconic players. They get guaranteed contracts. They don't have the numbers that we do. And here we are in the NFL. #1 sport. Everybody's crazy about us. People are betting on us. Doing all sorts, wearing our stuff, wearing our jerseys, packing stadiums, and no guaranteed contracts.
But you said something profound there. Everyone is betting on us. The problem is the players won't bet on themselves.
Oh, there it is, right there. Mic drop. Put the music on them. Give them a music bed. Say it again, Jim Trotter. That's a good one. Everybody's betting on us.
Everyone is betting on the players, but the players are not betting on themselves. They won't stand up for themselves.
I heard a preacher like you say something like that once. Talking about gambling in the pulpit. Did ask for some money for the building fund. Okay. I know some of y'all hit the lottery last night. Put an extra 20. Put an extra 20 in the offering plate. Thank you, Lord.
Is there any chance in your mind that maybe enough time has passed that it won't be so bad? It'll be
in Philly? Come on now. I know it's coming.
That was Ben Simmons, asked about his return to Philadelphia. He hadn't played on the court there, and it's how quickly time goes. It's been 2.5 years since Ben Simmons took a court in Philadelphia, and he went on to say, Mark Spears of Anscape, he went on to say that he really appreciated Philadelphia as a city, Philadelphia sports fan, and the passion, all the things that you'd expect him to say. So how do you think this is going to go when Ben Simmons, Brooklyn net, takes on the Sixers?
I think it's going to be kind of like that tooth that you need to get pulled, where you're like, you're dreading going to the dentist's office and you know it's coming. Like, I got a dentist appointment on dentist December 1st, man. It's not going to be a good one. I know it's coming, but it has to happen. It's going to happen. And once I leave the office, I'm going to feel better. And I think that's going to be the case for Ben Simmons, man. He's going to go there. You know what you're getting. The fact that he's playing well helps. I saw him last week in Sacramento, and he looked like his own old self. He visited with Sacramento State's head coach, David Patrick, who is his godfather. And he told him to be effing Ben Simmons, you know, to be himself. And it seemed like since that game in Sacramento, he's loosened up, played better, looked like his normal self, got back in the starting lineup. So in terms of the way he's playing, the timing is good. In terms of the booing, get ready for it. Like, are they going to play a tribute video? I think they have to, out of respect.
They don't
right?
have to.
You play a tribute
they don't
video.
No, they don't have to.
No.
They don't do that.
It's kind of customary in the NBA to play a tribute video for somebody that had a significant, role in their franchise. I mean, as crazy as this might sound, I mean, Ben Simmons had overall a great career there. He was an all-star several times. I don't know that he's going to get his jersey. He won't get his jersey retired, but
no.
no.
But
my point is, as a franchise, sometimes I think, like, when I look back, and I'm maybe going too deep on this, I remember when Melo went back to Denver for the first time, and they played a video that included also like Kenyon Martin, J.R. Smith, like everybody that went to New York that came back, and Melo, Camby was in it. I think that probably hurt him a little bit that he didn't get his own video. And so I think that sometimes you got to be the bigger person as a franchise. And although he's going to get booed, you're still showing the people that are on your team that your career here will always be respected. So I hope the Sixers do show a video no matter whether it gets booed or not.
Mark, obviously, as you were pointing out, there's been a tremendous turnaround in his play. Was it as simple as that conversation with his godfather, or was it the fact that maybe he's finally feeling healthy after all the things he's gone through?
I think it was rust, a lot of rust. As Michael said, I've been a band apologist for a while. I think mentally he's gotten over some things, back, knee, physically he's gotten over some things, and he's just playing basketball now, man. And so maybe coming off the bench helped him because it just there maybe wasn't as much pressure there. I do think his coach being like, man, just come on, man, just play basketball, and he was in a comfortable environment, and Sac, even though they got drilled that game, helped him. And so confidence is, I mean, you guys have been covering sports for a long time. I don't care how amazingly talented you are, if you don't have your confidence, you're shot. And I could see from that Sacramento game, that confidence, that old Ben smile, fun, it's coming back. And, if the Sixers are pretty injury riddled, if they're missing a bunch of guys and, the Nets have a good game, I think it will, regardless to what the fans are doing and saying, it could be maybe be fun for him. But I also remember some of the ugliness that we've seen in the NBA, whether it was Lamar Odom being in Boston and them chanting "ugly sister" when he's at the free throw line when he was dating Khloe Kardashian at the time. I was at a game in LA when Shaq made his return to Miami, and the Laker fans were either like Shaq fans or Kobe fans, and somebody had a picture of Shaq and Kobe holding like a championship trophy and an MVP trophy, and they had a rat head over Kobe Bryant, the late great Kobe Bryant's head. So if there is a worry tonight, I worry about it being just an ugly environment. Signs, you know, I was in Oklahoma City when a guy dressed up as a cupcake when Kevin Durant came back. Like the dude actually had a cupcake uniform. Michael, you like that one?
Top, man.
He was dressed up as a cupcake, man. Like, so that part's going to be creative tonight. The Sixers fans are legendary. I saw him boo Destiny's Child once. So I expect them to.
What are we booing Destiny's Child for?
That tops.
What are we booing Destiny's Child for?
We know the Santa thing, but no, this is the next level. Destiny's Child.
Was in the finals.
Destiny's Child.
And Destiny's Child performed, and they had half Lakers, half Sixers outfit on. And because it wasn't all Sixers, the Sixers fans booed them. They booed Destiny's Child, Beyonce, Michelle Williams, whoever the third one was at that time.
Kelly Rowland.
You said whoever? You didn't mention Kelly Rowland first?
My bad.
I was going to say.
I meant Kelly Rowland was the first. I think Michelle was
Kelly
there.
Rowland was the first.
Maybe your staff could get us some video or pictures of that. But Philly might be the most interesting place. They're going to come with it. I don't know if anything beats the cupcake uniform, but I expect the Sixers fans to give them some brotherly love for sure.
Well, Mark, can I ask you this real quick? Go ahead, Michael.
Go ahead, Jim. No, you got it.
No, I just wanted to ask a basketball question as it relates to the Nets. If Ben Simmons is back and has his confidence and plays like the old Ben Simmons, and Kyrie is there, and Kyrie plays to the level that we know he can, and you got KD, what can we expect from the Nets? How dangerous are they?
They're championship dangerous. They're scary. They got shooters. The one thing they don't have, I think, that worries me about them is a lack of size. They're not a great rebounding team. They're not a great defensive team, but they got shooters, man. Curry's on the team, Joe Harris, they got some shooters. And so when you got Kevin Durant, Kyrie, if you got Ben playing on top level, they're scary. They got Patty Mills shooting. They got shooters everywhere on this squad. But it's about, the problem is that the focus hasn't been about basketball. It's been about everything else. So now with Kyrie back, now with Ben playing better, perhaps now where they're just they're still in November, they can focus on just basketball and be a force that they have on paper the potential to be. And Jacques Vaughn's doing a fantastic job coaching them.
Hey, there's one member of the Brooklyn Nets that you didn't mention. I'm surprised that you forgot him. He's a all-star player, Mark. His name's Jaylen Brown. Yeah, he plays for the Brooklyn Nets. Oh, he doesn't play for the Brooklyn Nets. Because if I listen to his comments, when I listen to Jaylen Brown's comments about Kyrie, I'm like, dude, hey, if your last name were Irving, you wouldn't be expected to cape so hard for Kyrie like you're doing. Have you been following this, Mark? Every step of the way. This goes beyond being part of the NBA Players Association Leadership Council, which he is. I know he's got a very prominent position in the Players Association. But every step of the way, he has said, oh, yeah, Kyrie, Brooklyn, he's disagreed with Joe Tsai. He wound up doing something really, really stupid, where the group that Kyrie pretty much affiliated with, the people who Kyrie was tweeting and retweeting their stuff, they wound up protesting outside the arena in Brooklyn.
See, but he thought they were the Omega Psi Phi, man.
Jaylen Brown thought they were a fraternity.
You know what is funny?
And he retweets it.
I have a group chat with some very prominent brothers on it, and they too thought it was a mega. So
Come on.
I would give Jalen a pass because I'm like, if these cats that I'm tight with thought they were.
But that's just like, but it's not just that. Jaylen Brown essentially has, between his association with Kanye that he finally had to be talked out of. He was late to that. Yeah. His caping up for Kyrie in this situation that cost Kyrie games, and then the retweet. What am I missing? What's going on? And I get the sense that the Players Association never really came out with a strong enough rebuke of Kyrie, and I just wonder what you think that's about.
I thought the Players Association came with a strong statement. I had a diary with CJ McCollum yesterday that was pretty strong in him being against what happened. Did you read that?
Yeah.
I thought CJ was pretty strong.
Initially, Mark. It was.
I mean, I guess it was.
Their initial statement was about just randomly about anti-Semitism, but not necessarily specifically about what Kyrie was doing. And I'm just going to tell you. You tell me if I'm going too far here. I thought Brooklyn was very reasonable by saying, "This is what you've got to do to get back on the court." Jaylen Brown and others said, "Oh, that's unreasonable." What's unreasonable about it? The guy had 100 opportunities just to say, "I'm sorry, my bad. Yeah. I'm not an anti-Semite," and he didn't do it. What's an employer supposed to do? Oh, by the way, the employer is based in Brooklyn, where 600,000 people consider themselves Jews. What are you thinking, dude? Just say, "I'm sorry." He didn't. So I think Brooklyn was very fair with Kyrie Irving.
You know that choir didn't mention that when you were going to church, all them church services and all that you spoke of earlier. I feel like I'm in the choir right now. You just preaching to me. Go on, Pastor. Let it out.
I'd sit down. Jaylen Brown. I mean, it's one thing. It just blows my mind, Mark. Kyrie Irving essentially was suspended 8 games? Is it 8? It was 7 or 8 games.
I think it wound up at 8.
7 or 8 games for retweeting something that maybe he did or did not read, but he retweeted it and then didn't back away from it. Jaylen Brown retweeted something. He didn't know what it was about. He did back away from it, but man, you're getting too close to the fire. What are you doing? What are you doing? I just don't get it. Tell me this. Is Doc Rivers, the guy you covered in Boston, is Doc Rivers in jeopardy of losing that gig in Philly? Man, they got some injuries. They're not playing up to expectations. Harden out. Embiid out for at least the next couple of games. Maxey.
I do think the pressure was on Doc once the season started, but with their injuries, it's not fair to let him go or to challenge him at this point. What do you want him to do? Make wine out of water? Team is beat up. If they're healthy and they were having these struggles, I think it'd be a different thing. But with all the injuries they're having, I don't know what anybody expects the Sixers to do right now.
Mark, you mentioned the diary that you're doing with CJ McCollum. As an outsider, I'm always fascinated about how these things come about and how you go about choosing who you want to do projects with like this. Yeah. What was it that led you to CJ in terms of all the players who are in the NBA, all the contacts you have? What was it about him that said, this is the dude I want to do a year-long diary with?
Yeah. Well, one, he's just a fascinating dude. He's president of the Players Union. Right. He's somebody that wanted to play in New Orleans. Obviously, they had an amazing run in the playoffs last year without Zion. Zion's back. So there's a Zion aspect to this as well. There's a labor stuff. So, you could constantly talk to him about what's happening, off the court, which led to his, words on Kyrie. Also, man, he's somebody maybe it's near and dear to my heart as somebody who has New Orleans ties and is going to be there for Thanksgiving, right? He has embraced the city. He goes on a date with his wife every week if he can to a different restaurant, try a different restaurant in the best restaurant city in the country, maybe in the world, right? I saw him in the rain last Saturday passing out turkeys in the New Orleans East, which is certainly challenged. And so he's just an interesting cat, man. Interesting to a father, been married just a couple years. So there's so many different things that he's can talk about. One thing I love about him, like how serious he's taken this, is he wants to meet with me face to face and do his diary. And he, there've been players in the past who may not have taken it as seriously as him, but he cares about, like, he wants to edit it, Jim. To his diary, I'm like, yeah, you could edit it. He was like, wow. Email it to me. I want to do my own editing, and I respect that. Like he's taken this really, really seriously. So now I think we're getting in a better groove where when I interview him next month in Salt Lake City, because I figured he had time there to do his diary over the course of 2 games in 4 days in Salt Lake.
What you trying to say about Salt Lake, Mark?
I enjoy Salt Lake. I love Salt, but yeah, especially Park City. It's cool.
You're a better man than me.
I think it's beautiful.
And me too. Right.
Really beautiful time of the year. I got my boy Lassie Mitchell. We went to San Jose State together, so he knows the spots. So
okay.
It's all right. It's all right.
Okay, there we go.
As a restaurant aficionado, maybe he didn't have as many places to choose from.
Okay, all right. Real quick, I keep begging the Golden State Warriors. Somebody listen to me. Take my phone calls. I'm trying to bring Jonathan Kuminga to Boston.
No,
I know they got blown out last.
No,
I know. I love him. I love him.
For who?
Anybody. Not anybody, but reasonable.
Well, if it's anybody.
Reasonable. Hey, how about Sam Hauser? How about Sam Hauser? Straight up, Sam Hauser for Jonathan Kuminga. You want to do it? You want to do it? How about Sam Hauser and Luke Cornett for Jonathan Kuminga and a second-round pick? No, I love this kid. No, really. I think this kid has got so much potential. And I know the Warriors did it again last night. They don't play Steph. They don't play Clay. They didn't play Draymond or Wiggins. And they get blown out by the Pelicans. Kuminga winds up hitting his head on the backboard on a dunk. It's just insane. Yeah. Tell me what you think, and the last question for me, what do you think of this kid when he's fully formed, 3 years, 4 years, what do you think he's got in him?
Well, I got to watch him with the G League Ignite. So I saw him before he got into the league, and he was doing special things then. I think this kid is going to get better and better and better. He's like LeBron-sized player, LeBron-type athlete. He just needs to get around more basketball. This isn't somebody who's played basketball since he was 5, like a lot of us were, right? So he's still mastering the game. He's still mastering the complications of what the Warriors do. But once he locks it down, I mean, he has potential to be better than any of their young players. He's just got that much. So I think you're gonna have to bring in like Malcolm Brogdon or something like that if you want your Celtics to like get a sniff at Kuminga.
How about Derek White?
No,
get a little warmer there.
No.
Why not?
No.
Why not, Trotter? Why not?
As a lifelong Warriors fan, somebody who sat up in the $5 seats at the old Oakland Alameda Coliseum Arena.
Yeah.
Jonathan Kuminga, to me, has the ability or the skill set to be one of the league's best. And if they were to trade him, I might have to get up off my squad. That's just how I feel. This kid is so young.
Hey man, your boy just switched. Don't waste your energy, Jim.
Look at that.
Yeah, no. So and the other, but what I wanted to ask you, Mark, before we get out of here real quick, is like I'm always asking about James Wiseman. What do you see? What do you see in James? And like Nat and I have had this discussion where she talks about possibly trading James because she doesn't think he fits there. Your thoughts on that? Because I'm a James Wiseman fan. I think if you give him time to play, he's another guy who hasn't played much
Yeah.
basketball the last 3 years. I think he has a chance to be really special in this league.
When, I'm with you. I'm sticking with him. I saw him at the Hoop Summit years ago, and I saw David Robinson. That's what I saw. Crazy athlete, runs the floor like somebody that's not supposed to be that tall, runs the floor, block shots. And I think Steve said he thinks Wiseman's problem was a combination of injuries and the pandemic stunning his growth. I also think it's a confidence thing, like not catching the ball, every time he misses, being down on himself, being a step behind. So mental from a confidence standpoint and mental just from a catching up to the basketball speed standpoint. So I do think sending him to the G League, to the Santa Cruz Warriors was a brilliant thing to do. He's had good numbers there. But right now, I mean, I think the Warriors probably need to sign another big. They need a veteran big. Maybe Dwight Howard, maybe a DeMarcus Cousins might help them. But I'm not giving up on this kid. You send him somewhere else, he's gonna come back and haunt you. And
Absolutely.
So I think there just needs to be some more patience and get him ready by midseason. But they're not rushing him out of Santa Cruz. They want him to be so dominant in the G League that like he forces you to bring him back.
Hey, Marc. Hey, man. Good to hear from you. Happy Thanksgiving. Safe travels.
Thank you.
If you're traveling, if you're going to New Orleans, we're jealous. Happy eating.
I'm here, man.
You're absolutely
Gumbo
right with the food.
is heating up right
everything.
now.
Oh, you're killing me.
The fried turkey is heating up right now.
Oh,
it's
killing
some
me.
good stuff. Marc Spears, one of the best in the country.
The
Thank you, brother.
is heating up right now.
Stop. We're not listening. I'm not listening anymore.
I'm going fishing for some real fish tomorrow. It's going down.
All right, Jim. You look at some of these Hall of Fame semifinalists. Every time I see a list like this, I think of you. You are a Hall of Fame voter. You take it seriously. You're really into it. I look at two guys here. I would think, I'm not asking for your vote right now, but I look at Darrelle Revis and Joe Thomas. Yeah, they shouldn't have anything to worry about. Joe Thomas, only thing he had missing in his career was competitive teams. But as far as a great player, great, one of the all-time greats at his position, extremely consistent. And I feel like even right now, he could give a team like 22 good snaps per game. So what do you think about some of these semifinalists? Any of them jump out to you? Should be there, shouldn't be there, should be in? I see one who should have been in a long time ago. But what do you think?
Go ahead. Who is that?
I see it's not just because he's my colleague, not just because he's a friend of mine and yours. Rodney Harrison, in my opinion, is a Hall of Fame safety. And I can't believe we're here in 2022 still saying he should be, and we know that. He should be in the Hall of Fame.
I've been preaching that for every year since he's been eligible. And the thing I say that people don't realize, they remember from his Patriot days, he may have been a better player in San Diego than he was in New England, but because their teams were so bad, people didn't get a chance to see him. Rodney Harrison, without question, is a Hall of Fame player, no doubt. And if you want to, we get people who want to compare numbers, compare his numbers to Brian Dawkins, for instance. And if I were to put up blind resumes of the two of them, you would have a difficult time telling one from the other. They're that close. So no question he should be. The thing that's interesting to me about this list is that there are 10 returning finalists from a year ago who are now part of this semifinals class. So if you try and do the math and say, okay, let's say those 10 return to the finalists, make the cuts to be finalists again this year, that leaves 5 spots. And now you talk about a Joe Thomas or Darrelle Revis or Jari Evans, who are first-year eligible, guys like that, Dwight Freeney, James Harrison. It becomes extremely competitive. And I haven't even factored in yet to you that a guy like Steve Smith Sr., who I believe is a Hall of Famer, didn't even make it to the finalists a year ago. So if you want to talk about how competitive this will be, that's what it'll be. Two other things I want to say on this real quick. Somebody who I was happy to see make it to this point was Henry Ellard, the former Rams wide receiver. People tend to forget him, but at the time that he retired, he was number 3 in the league in receiving yards and number 4 in catches. People tend to forget that about him, and he didn't play in the era where it was wide open offenses like there are now. But the other point I want to make real quick is this bias against specialists. Like, I personally thought Devin Hester last year should have gone in the Hall of Fame on first ballot. I think he was that transcendent as a returner. But traditionally, we Hall of Fame voters seem to have a bias against specialists. The guy I bring up this year, he was on 2 all-decade teams, not 1, but 2. He was a member of the NFL's 100th anniversary team. He was a 6-time first-team All-Pro player, and yet he didn't even make the cut to the semifinalists, and that's punter Shane Leckler. So these folks who want to say the guys who weren't on the field every down, those sorts of things, not that you're going to exclude them, but they aren't going to carry as much weight. I really think we need to reconsider this, because a guy who was as dominant as Shane Leckler was at what he did, and a guy who was as dominant as Devin Hester was at what he did, in my opinion, that's what the Hall of Fame is about. It is about dominance, impact, and consistency over a period of time.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I like that the Hall of Fame, out of all of the Halls of Fame, I love that football, in my opinion, is the toughest, it's the most stringent. You see a lot of excellent play. Like all these players listed here, all outstanding players. You don't look at any of them and go, huh? How's that guy there? All of them are great players, but all of them can't get in. So I like that, but I agree with you that maybe we should look at specialists with through a different lens. I mean, if you can, yeah, sure, you're not on the field for 3 downs or 4 downs, but if you mean to tell me Devin Hester didn't change the way coaches thought about playing the Bears whenever they were kicking to him, and we just saw on Sunday how a game going back and forth, you think it's headed to overtime, how one punt return from somebody who was special with the ball in their hands can turn this thing around. It happens that these guys can help you win games. And you're helping you win games and doing it in a dominant way. You're right. That's what the Hall of Fame is all about. Let me ask you this. I want to go from Hall of Fame football players to something you told me during the break. So I just read a spot, the dog show. Release the Hounds. Thanksgiving, you got a dog show. My kids watch it every year. And my kids, we love, I'd like to say we love dogs in the Holley family. But honestly, if I'm going to keep it 100, they love dogs. They love dogs. I tolerate the 3 dogs that we have.
I got to reconsider my friendship with you then.
Okay, we've got 3 pugs, and if I put all of their weights together, maybe I got 35 pounds, 40 pounds. But you, my friend, you do not have a pug. You have a German Shepherd. How many pounds is your German Shepherd?
140.
140
She's a big
pounds.
girl. She's a big girl. She's slim in the waist, but she's 140 pounds. I talk about her paws, man. Her paws are like George Foreman's hands. You know, back in the day, they used to talk about when George Foreman's hands landed on you, it was a different kind of feeling. Her paws are that big that when they land on you, you feel them. And I'll say this to you, Michael.
Dog?
No, not to outsiders. No.
Okay.
No, she's very, very territorial, very protective, loves the ocean, which is good. Us living near San Diego. When she smells the salt in the air, she knows what's coming. But funny story, how I got her. So back during speaking of the Hall of Fame, I had to make a presentation one year for Eddie DeBartolo Jr. And I put in a lot of work researching it and whatnot, made the presentation. And fortunately, Eddie DeBartolo Jr. got in the Hall that year. So one of his assistants called and says he wants to do something for you. I said, I can't take anything, conflict of interest, this, that, and the other. I said, but I know he loves dogs. Just ask him if he knows of someone who can help me find a new shepherd. I get a doorbell rings from FedEx. In the box is a leash and a collar. And I was told, go pick up your dog on this date. That's how I got her.
That's great. I love that. And I love that the dog is not that sweet because a dog can take out a Wolverine, I bet. Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.